All right, boys, welcome back. Doing another matchup preview and analysis potty here on the Upside Fantasy Sports podcast. If this is the only episode that you listen to each week and you skip the TLT one, then I'll apologize again for last week where we just hammered it out in 8 minutes. You've got to take me bloody earmuffs off, mate. God, they look dumb. But anyway, just wanted to apologize like I did in the TLT one for last week where we hammered through the potty. Didn't give as much insight as I wanted to, and I hope no one missed on any of the plug and play opportunities as a result of that. But regardless, we're here for another week. We've got a full slate of games for round 18, which is pretty exciting. Before we tuck in, I think I'm 3 wins on the trot, which is the first time all season I haven't been stitched up with some bullshit, which has broken up my win streak. So yeah, we're building nicely. Greggy Marju hit upside, Terrell May hit upside, even Teddy hit upside. So we put number 1 on the ladder, which is my brother, to the sword, which felt really good because he absolutely murdered me when we matched earlier in the season. He went on I think he might have been 10-0 or something, or 11-1. Like, he went on a tear and now he's on a skid, and that's how quickly things change. And for all the good my brother does in drafting really well, he absolutely butchered the trading opportunities this season. He hasn't sold anyone on high. He made big risks in drafting Sean Johnson, who started decently, and now, he's stuck holding the bag. His lack of desire to trade with anyone, and I think it comes from arrogance. I think he's kicking ass and he just thinks, I know better than you know, because he's won a few classic comps in the past, is leading to his detriment. So I say all that to say that the 1 year I went 20-2, I kid you not, was the year I should have traded. I think it might have been Cleary for Payne Haas. I had an opportunity to do that and I just didn't have the guts, and my season went downhill. I didn't trade anyone high. I should have capitalized on some of the guys that were outperforming their draft stock or whatever it may have been. And I just think, my best seasons recently have been when I've traded the most in the league. Like, I've done triple the trades of anyone else in my league in the last 2 years. Like, over both years. Like, last year I tripled anyone, and this year I've tripled anyone. No one else really trades. And that's to their detriment. And then you ask the question, how do you trade so much? Why would people trade with you if you won last year? All this sort of stuff. I've mentioned it before, and I'll mention it a lot in the off season when we talk strategy and whatnot, but it is about coming to the table willing to lose the trade. It's as simple as that. You want to say I'm that transparent with the guys and there's some guys that won't trade with me and I won't even bother because they want to dominate. They are too arrogant. But with the guys that I've traded with consistently, it's going, hey mate, I'm thinking, you could use this guy because of A, B, and C, and I could really use that guy. Like, what do you reckon? No pressure, but I'm going to keep hounding you until you make a decision. This is what I think, this is why I think you'd win the trade. This is the risk you're facing if you do the trade. This is the risk I'm facing. I'm super transparent, just lay it all out because I want to win I want the trade to be 60-40 to them for the first 1 to 2 weeks. You know what I mean? I want them to come away going, oh yeah, Hudson's doing all right on the table or whatever, but he's not. I just got Jacob Carraz from him, and now he's got me 200s. I'm happy. Go for it, Jacob Carraz. Score 6,000 points. I got a guy I need, and I got a guy that suits my team and resolves an issue for me. And I gave up a guy who I had plenty of in that position, and you could have wavered for not Jacob Carraz level talent, but I'm cool with it, man. Like, I want you to feel good. So next year, when I don't get a certain guy from from the draft, I can come back to that well and go, hey, you've done such a good draft. Like, how you've got those two wingers in the same team, whatever. Oh, I'll give you this winger. Like, he's not as good, but at least you get to diversify. And I noticed they've got a bunch of buys around Origin, or he plays Origin, yada, yada, yada. Like, I think it's a pretty good deal, like ABC, whatever, And he goes, oh yeah, I fleeced Hudson last year. I got Carraz and he just popped off. It's like, sweet. I want you to do good. I want to trade with you because you're going to fulfill the things I can't fulfill off waivers for me. And then I back my research and analysis to fill the things that I can't trade for off waivers. So anyway, I'm rambling now, but that's just a story that, you know, I kicked my brother's ass and he's number one on the table, but I don't think he's going to win the thing. He might, I just don't think he can win from there. And he should have traded, man. He should have been more enthusiastic. He should have been more open-minded and less arrogant because he was 11-2 at one point, which is just insane in my comp. And now he's like 11-9. The skid from hell. Like, yeah, he drafted so well. Genius draft. Just dominated the draft. Really hard to outdraft my comp because we're all freaks. But yeah, he did it and then he cooked it during the season. So anyway, let's get into the matchups, guys. First game, game 1, Eels v Rabbitohs. Look, this is noisy in my opinion in terms of data. Like the Eels, they let in a lot of SuperCoach points. They score some SuperCoach points. The Rabbitohs started the season really poorly. This is the beauty of using recent data. Like I'm not pulling in the first 10 weeks into these models anymore because it's not super relevant. Whatever's happening at the Bunnies, they've sort of got a desire to defend and that's choking out a little bit. I do think this is a little overstated, and depending on the weather in Sydney on Thursday night, I do recommend firing up, you know, Eels outside backs, for example, that aren't really necessarily listed here. I mean, we've got both wingers, which is good, but you know, where like Cardi's got a bad matchup. Like I'm playing Cardi, man, 100%. Like bad matchup or not. So don't go too deep into the Eels side of this, but I think the Bunnies is pretty interesting with the right and left, both right and left wingers. So that's AJ and Gagai. Like they've got really strong matchups. I wouldn't be playing Kennar despite having the unless you're in a super deep league or whatever, like 16 teamer, which we know doesn't really exist in actuality. And then Kalon Matangi, who I mentioned in the TLT, is just a guy that I think is an impossible buy low, but I think he's a trade target, if that makes sense. If you can get him, I just think, well, is it lock? Yeah, I mean, I'd hate someone to get him and he sucks, so he loses lock. But just, man, if you need wins, I'd be paying overs for Kalon Matangi if you need wins in the next 3 weeks to guarantee a final spot, for example. I gave the suggestion of Isaiah Yeo, like a big name, you know, like maybe that's not the best example, but just a big name, like a Pat Carrigan. He's got a buy in the finals, Carrigan. He's got Origin. You could say to someone who's up higher on the ladder, like, I'll give you Paddy Carrigan. You don't need him while he's at Origin, but he's a gun, yada yada, whatever it may be. Like, I don't know how your leagues all work, but that's just an example. Yeah, just for the people on the potty, like, just run through the Eels. Really, I'm just distracted because I got all passionate talking about trading. But let me go. Left wing, great matchup. Lock, good matchup. Right wing, good matchup. Left center, good matchup. And the front row is good matchup. That's for the Eels. Their bad matchups are the right half Moses, but I don't trust it. He'll go well. And the right 2RF Cardi, and I don't really trust that. The fullback has a bad matchup. Gutho, which I'd probably put a bit of stock into because he's been pretty mediocre, hasn't he? For the Bunnies, lock gun matchup, right center gun matchup, left winger gun matchup, right winger gun matchup, elite matchup, sorry, fullback elite matchup. That's Latrell, so strong VC option on Latrell, Moses, Kalon Matangi VC if you're interested. Alex Johnson, who's really cheap right now in classic and fantasy, he's a potential buy there. Front rowers, bad matchups and a tough matchup for the right 2RF of the Bunnies. Overall, it's a discrepancy in favor of the Rabbitohs, 14 points in my metric there. That's pretty significant. Like they're putting out SuperCoach points when Trelly is there and whatnot. Dominant side for the Eels is their right edge, which is Moses now. That's swapped from the left a few weeks ago. And the Bunnies are dominant down the middle, which is your Cookie and your Murray and your Kalon Matangi sort of stuff. Moving on. Game 2, Sharks Titans. For the Sharks, elite matchup for their front rowers, elite matchup for Will Kennedy. So he's a plug if you're desperate at fullback, this weekend, for example. Say you're the Hammer owner or whatever. Left center, great matchup. Left half, great matchup, which is Trindle. Right half, neutral matchup, but Nico and the Titans been kind of betterish, but yeah, you're going for Nico as a strong VC here. Left wing, bad matchup. Right center, bad matchup. Right 2RF, bad matchup. So the big one there is we're hoping that Kayal Iro gets a try, which would be amazing. Don't expect it to happen, but it'd be awesome if he finally did. Hasn't scored, I don't think, since his debut. Oh, it wasn't his debut, sorry. but the first game that he played this year. The Sharks are dominant down their right, which is the Nico edge. Overall discrepancy in favour of the Titans. That's because they have been scoring a lot of SuperCoach points. And I don't know, I think the Sharks, they've been kind of mediocre across the board SuperCoach wise lately, and letting in a fair whack of SuperCoach points too across the board. So for the Titans, elite matchup for the lock, elite matchup for the hooker, elite matchup for the left half, which is Kieran Foran. Great matchup for the front rowers, which is Fodawaker, who's a viable pickup or plug, potentially if Origin's kickstarted his engine. I keep saying that. I don't know if it's true. I'm not interested in really looking and validating it, but you can do that. Good matchup for the right centre. Poor matchup for the right 2RF, though, and the right half. And a neutral matchup for the right winger. So not a lot of left edge call out here for the Titans, but with Foran having an elite matchup, I think there'll be a bit of a trickle down, as you can imagine, to Kelly and AKP and David Fafita. On that, I'd be firing up Fafita for a VC and Nico for a VC on this one. Next game, Broncos Panthers, left wing, elite matchup, right 2RF, great matchup for the Broncos, left 2RF, great matchup, as I mentioned, I think. Right centre, great matchup. So a lot of that, bit of left and right edges are solid there for the Broncos. Then it gets neutral for the left centre and poor for the hooker. So quite quickly deteriorates for the Broncos. The bad matchups are lock, but I'd still be playing Pat Carrigan, right wing and right half, bad matchups. For the Panthers, it is elite matchup only for the left 2RF, which is Sorensen. But I do think, even though To'o has a bad matchup, I think when you've got a left 2RF with an elite, I'm comfy with To'o. You're obviously playing To'o. Like, I'm not reading into the data here against the Broncos, the Panthers. Like, I'm cool. Like, To'o, 100%. Hooker, great matchup. Lock, great matchup. Good matchups for the right half, the fullback, and the right winger. Bad matchups for the front rowers and bad matchup for Brian To'o, but I don't care about that. I'm firing him up. Overall, massive discrepancy in favour of the Panthers. Broncos are dominant down their left, so you can see that left winger has the elite matchup, and the Panthers are dominant down their right. Any VCs in season here, like you could go for, wouldn't be super keen on a VC on Reece Walsh. I'd be looking elsewhere. Good matchup for Dylan Edwards, poses then as a good VC potential captain if you're interested, and nothing else really stands out for me. I mean, you could rely on Jack Cole, for example, with the good matchup here against the Broncos, but I'd definitely be starting all my Panthers as usual. I don't think they're too bothered by matchups. Game 4, Bulldogs Warriors. For the Bulldogs, left half, elite matchup, left centre, elite matchup, fullback. That's Connor Tracy, as I mentioned in the Thingo, the TLT Blitz has a great matchup, so he's a good play this weekend in your centre wings. Left 2RF, good matchup. Right half, good matchup. Left wing, good matchup. So big left weakness for the Warriors and left strength for the Doggies. Right centre, tough matchup. Front rowers, neutral matchup. And the hooker, neutral matchup. The Dogs are dominant down their right edge, which is Jacob Carraz's edge, with Toby Sexton digging in, creating really nice space for his guys out on the right. For the Warriors, great matchups for the lock, the right centre, and the right winger. Good matchup for the hooker, but then it gets pretty grim with the front rowers having neutral matchups, the fullback having a bad matchup, left half having a bad matchup, and left centre having a tough matchup. Overall, we've got a Bulldogs dominance here. The Warriors are balanced across the board, but the Doggies should score well in SuperCoach and should be pretty restrictive on your Warriors fringe players. For Tigers and Storm, which is game 5, the Tigers, let's go through them first. There's one elite matchup, and it's the left centre. And then it gets really grim. It's left 2RF neutral, right centre neutral, left half neutral, fullback poor, lock tough, right winger bad, right 2RF tough, left winger bad. The Tigers score predominantly down the middle of the field. For the Storm, huge discrepancy. I'm expecting some sort of a bloodbath here. Right winger gun matchup, left centre gun matchup, fullback gun matchup if that's Puppy indeed. Otherwise, it's Fa'alongo. And they've got that gun matchup. So 3 gun matchups, which is pretty crazy here for the Storm. Left centre, right winger, and fullback, just to reiterate. So pretty balanced, as you can see. Both halves have good matchups, with the left half, Wishart having a great one, and the right half, Jerome, having an elite matchup. So love Jerome Hughes tonight in this one. Hooker, great matchup for Harry Grant, but he's rested, so you can rely on Garlic yet again. Poor matchup for the left 2RF, which is Sean Blaw. Not reading too much into that though. You play him 80-minute hooker, 80-minute edge back row sort of thing. Neutral matchup for the right centre, not bothered by it, and a good matchup for the lock. So just, yeah, most likely a bloodbath from a Supercoach perspective here. The Storm are humming, I think. Next game, game 6, Cowboys Eagles. For the Cowboys, it's elite matchups for the right winger and the hooker. Then we've got the lock, right 2RF, right half, and left half who have great matchups. Left 2RF, bad matchup. Left centre, bad matchup, and the front row is poor matchups for the Cows. They do have like the favour overall in Supercoach, and they're dominant down their left, even though the left edge looks like it's pretty restricted against the Eagles, and it's the right side that's going to benefit. So fire up Kyle Felt if he's an option for you. You can rely on him. Reece Robson's a good one. With the lock, is that Cotter? Or they do something different at the moment? I don't know. Sorry, I'll have to check that. And both halves have great matchups, so Tom Deard and Townsend. For the Seagulls, they have gun matchups for their forwards, but I'm not for the front rowers. Sorry, I'm not really doing a lot with that. An elite matchup for the lock. Great matchup for the right 2RF and the right half. So DCE and his counterpart, what's his face out there. So love that for them. Left 2RF has a great matchup. It gets tough for the right centre, the left half, and the hooker. So Dylan Brooks, if you've got another option, he could be a sit. But I don't know. I mean, the Cowboys defended really well against Panthers. Have they turned it around, or is that just a spike in things for the Cowboys and they're back to their old ways? It's a decision for you to make. The Seagulls are dominant left and right edges, so they score predominantly on their wings rather than up the guts due to having literally barely no hooker play. That's why that is. Game 7, Roosters Dragons. The right 2RF for the Roosters has a gun matchup. The right winger has a great matchup, and the right half has a great matchup. So yeah, it should be solid. That right edge will be humming. Dom Young presents as a really interesting choice for a captain here. The Dragons have been better, but just his form, the way they score, and the matchups. Having said that, the moment that left my mouth, I just remember Joey Manu has a broken wrist, and I'm not as interested in the creation for Dom Young without Joey Manu. So yeah, maybe don't captain Dom Young off my silly advice there. Left centre, good matchup. Fullback neutral and hooker neutral for the Roosters. So that just shows you in the top 6 here for the Roosters. The Dragons have been pretty staunch, guys. So yeah, have a think about how you manage your captaincies and vice captaincies in this one. Left half, bad matchup, which is Kiri. Left winger, poor matchup. And right centre, poor matchup. But I still think the right edge pretty good. Sammy Walker and that. The Roosters are super balanced. They score everywhere. They're super dominant. Even with the Dragons being better, it's still quite a large discrepancy in favour of the Roosters. They should comfortably win this and score quite well in Supercoach with Connor Watson and Brandon Smith still being healthy and creating a lot of havoc, and their forward pack just being psychotic with Terrell May off the bench. For the Dragons, right centre has an elite matchup, left 2RF has an elite matchup, and then it gets grim. We've got neutral matchups for the left half, lock, right 2RF, front rower. Bad matchups for the left centre, hooker, and tough matchup for the left winger. So with the right centre having an elite matchup, I think that makes Lomax definitely playable and, that sort of stuff. I wouldn't like captain him in game 7. You're not going to VC him, but I think you can expect Lomax to potentially do okay off the back of that. But yeah, again, the Roosters pretty staunch. Just be mindful of your fringe Dragons players in that respect. Raiders Knights are the final game of the round. Kalen Ponga is back. It's going to be really interesting to see how that manifests, as well as the 2RF schmozzle that's going on there. But let's start with the Raiders, guys. Gun matchups for the right and left half, which is just fascinating the way the Knights are leak into the halves of oppositions. Really weird. The right 2RF for the Raiders also has an elite matchup. Right centre has an elite matchup, and left winger, which is Rapana, has an elite matchup. So you can play Rapana in your CT dubs if he's an option there. Front rowers have great matchups. It gets tough for Hudson Young, the fullback Weeks, and the left centre. It gets tough for them with poor matchups. The Raiders are dominant down the middle as usual, pretty boring. Flipping over to the Knights, who have the balance in favour of them, that's the case because even though they kind of like score okay at times in Supercoach, they've been pretty grim for a couple of weeks, and the Raiders, whilst they don't score well, they're like a little bit staunch. So yeah, they sort of cross each other out in a weird way, both these teams, and yeah, whatever. I'm firing up Knights though. I think they can score after last week if they can keep rolling in that way. Sharp was really doing a good job creating, and now with Ponga back, hopefully that maintains. But for the matchups for the Knights, it's gun matchup for the left 2RF, which is Kai Pearce-Paul, and the hooker. Left centre has a great matchup again, which is Bradman Best. And then with a poor matchup for Marju, I'm ignoring that because if there's that flow-on effect of the guys inside him having the great and gun matchups, then the winger's the beneficiary oftentimes. So I'm confidently playing Marju this weekend. Hope it pays off. Hope I'm not wrong, but that's the way I sort of think about it from a footy perspective, blending here with the, I guess like the positional matchups. Great matchups for the left centre, as I mentioned, and Kalen Ponga at fullback. If he does play, if Sharp comes in, he still has that great matchup. Front rowers have great matchups. Tough matchup for the lock, and the left and right wingers have poor matchups for the Knights. But again, playing them in this one, I think Knights are dominant down the left, which is also why I'm playing Marju if I've got him. That does it, I think, boys, which is good. Trying to find my mouse, which is a scare. Has my mouse died? What the? Okay, I think my mouse has died. That's fucking hilarious. Sorry, absolute blunder. That's crazy. But yeah, there's no questions, I don't think, because I've recorded this. Just jump in and check. I know I already opened the potty with my own matchup and my own league, but it was really interesting during the week. I kicked off the week in the Discord talking about people's the parity in their leagues. Yep, there's no questions, which is sweet. The parity in people's leagues, and I think it's just been a really chaotic, exciting year as SuperCoach players. It's been frustrating for people who paid high tickets and they got injuries or they got busts out of the high tickets, but I think it's been balanced out, and I can tell by the guys who are most vocal in the Discord where they are on the ladder. Everyone's frustrated with one or two of the same, a few of the same players. It's either the Toto owners originally in the season, or then the Marju owners, or the Kalen Ponga injury owners, now the Turbo injury owners. But everyone that I speak to in the Discord's sitting, middle of the pack or often better, because I think what we've lost in, the return of guns or consistency or health of some of the guns, we've gained in weird waiver value, like really strong waiver value. Keanu Kinney, Tyron Wishart, Angus Crichton. The lists go on, and I think it's what it's led to is people that got stitched up in the draft have been able to fight hard off waivers. Like if you've paid attention, if you've listened to a potty or been in a Discord or done whatever it is that makes draft special and makes draft the way it is, and the value of our Discord is you've competed and you've stuck around and you should make finals, because the weird year we've had with buys and mini buys and origin restings has led for just attentive players to benefit, and put up a fight. And that's a really special thing and a really sick thing. Next year, will we see I don't know what we'll see next year. And I think that'll have to factor into how we prepare for drafts and how we scope out managing benches and facilitating for waiver pickups. So really focusing on nailing your top 5 guys and, being flexible, that's in an auction draft, but, being flexible with not overdrafting a really good bench so you've got your hands cuffed all season. You want to have a bit of fluidity available to you. And it also means that from a league settings and construction perspective, the 4-man bench thing, man, it has to go. In the injury-prone nature with HIAs and origin restings and stuff of the NRL, if your league enters next season with only 4 people on the bench, if you only play 8 players or 9 players, okay, 4's like it's fine. But if you're a regular sort of league and you might play 11 to 13 starters, 4-man benches, it's shit, because what it doesn't reward good play. It just rewards good luck. So people talk about, if the benches are too deep, there's no waiver action. That's not the truth. There is waiver action. There's certainly waiver action, and there's also more trading because people have different levels of value across the board to trade. There's more 2-for-1s and 3-for-2s, which is more often how deals get done. 1-for-1s aren't as common, or they're definitely not as common in my league, but they make it really hard, whereas 2-for-1s is the best way to trade. You give 2, you get 1 back. That person feels like they're fixing parts of their team, or they're getting more overall value, and you feel like you're getting the guy you really need to plug the hole that you need to sort out. So yeah, more rambling about stuff to finish the potty, sorry guys, but just think it's just interesting time of the season to reflect on now that we look with, I think, 5 regular rounds to go potentially. Yeah, before most leagues kick into finals. 4 for some, 5 for others, 6 if you got it wrong. 6 if you got it wrong. And so, yeah, we're at the really pointy end, and it's been a fascinating sort of season the way it's developed. But yeah, let's get our settings right next season to facilitate for a good balanced gameplay and good fair gameplay based off what we play, which is draft. Therefore, draft should have the priority and the value, and therefore, we also don't want to punish people for losing for injuries and HIAs they can't control. So, yeah. Anyway. Thanks, guys. Best of luck with your matchups. Hope you enjoyed this one. Remember to like and even leave a comment. I don't care what you say, but leaving a comment also helps. Shout out just before I go to JT, Silent Bob, for all the consistent comments. They mean a lot, JT. I really appreciate it, mate. Shout out to you, my man. I hope you have been winning some matchups. You really deserve it. Thanks for the support. Everyone else, have a great rest of your week, and enjoy the footy this weekend. Remember to message me on any platform if you want to join the Discord. It's where everyone supports each other and chimes in, and we just whinging together, but sometimes it's nice to have your whinging heard by other people that are suffering too. So yeah, thanks so much, team. Catch you in the next one. See ya.